Today, we're going to take a really rigorous look at a new framework called TCGS SEQUENTION. Now, this is a big one. It's an idea designed to tackle a really deep, fundamental paradox that sits right at the heart of science, and it suggests the universe is put together in a way you've probably never even considered. So here's the puzzle that gets everything started. On one hand, physics is all about finding these beautiful, simple, universal laws that explain, well, everything. But then you look out the window, you look at biology, a single cell, a forest, a person, and it is just mind-bogglingly complex. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? This clash, it's called the unity-diversity paradox, and it's the exact problem this new framework is built to solve. So here's how we're going to walk through it. First, we'll dig into those contradictions. Then we'll look at the framework's solution, this idea of one source, one law. After that, we'll see how that simple idea can generate complexity, and then we're going to get into some pretty wild implications about the nature of time itself. We'll also make sure to clarify what this model isn't, and we'll wrap up with its truly mind-bending philosophical limits. All right, let's dive into Section 1, a universe of contradictions. We really need to get a handle on this unity-diversity paradox. You know, the standard explanation you usually hear is that complexity just kind of emerges over time from simple rules. But if you think about it, that doesn't really answer the big questions. It doesn't explain why you get the specific, intricate form of a giraffe instead of just, a chaotic blob. The old way of thinking leans heavily on time as the engine that creates new things. But this model, well, it suggests something else is going on entirely. So what's the alternative? That brings us right to Section 2, one source, one law. This is the absolute central insight of the entire framework. The core concept is, believe it or not, incredibly simple. It boils down to this: one source, one law, many nodes. Just imagine a single geometric origin point for literally everything. The model calls this P0. From that single source, there's only one fundamental law, which it calls E, that projects everything into the reality we can observe. And here's the key. This one law operates through countless different connection points, or nodes, that are all tied back to that one original source. So what exactly is one of these nodes? The framework gives it a specific name, a constraint node. The best way to think about it is like a little gateway or a pinhole. Picture that one central origin point with tons of lines radiating out from it. A node is just a specific spot, a singularity, where that single universal law gets applied to shape the world we see. It's the very same law every single time, just acting through many, many different locations. Okay, Section 3, complexity as interference. So if the setup is that simple, one source, one law, how on earth does it produce all the staggering complexity we see all around us? Okay, so first, let's be super clear about what this model is not saying. The incredible complexity you see in a living organism isn't because there's some special, separate law of biology. It's not like there's one set of rules for physics and a totally different set for life. The answer it proposes is that complexity is just an interference pattern. Think about it like this. If you drop a handful of pebbles into a perfectly still pond, right, the beautiful, complex pattern of ripples you see isn't caused by different kinds of water. It's just one set of physical laws creating interference as the waves overlap, build up, and cancel each other out. This theory suggests our universe works the exact same way. All the complexity we see is just the pattern that emerges when the effects of that one law, projected through all those different nodes, interfere with each other. So how are these nodes all arranged? The model describes their organization using this really cool analogy, a foam topology. So instead of thinking about a simple wheel with spokes, picture a massive structure of soap bubbles all packed together. Each bubble is like a cell created by a node, and they all share walls and boundaries. Nothing is isolated. It's all one unified, interconnected structure. And that single origin point, P0, isn't just in the middle. It's the underlying principle that generates the entire foam in the first place. This whole intricate pattern then acts as a kind of generative grammar, a deep set of rules that builds everything we see. And this idea leads us to what is probably the most radical part of the entire framework. Section 4, history isn't being written. This concept totally flips our everyday understanding of time right on its head. This quote really cuts to the heart of it. What the model is suggesting is that reality is a pre-existing static structure. You can think of it like a four-dimensional object, where the past, the present, and the future all exist at once. So in this view, the tree of life isn't actually growing new branches over time. The whole tree is already there, fully formed. What we experience as time is just our consciousness moving through it or reading it, revealing the structure that already exists. So you end up with this massive contrast. In the standard view of evolution, time is fundamental. It's the river in which new things are genuinely created. But in sequention, the idea proposed here, novelty isn't created, it's just revealed from a configuration that's already in place. Time stops being this fundamental force and becomes more like a gauge or a parameter, kind of like a yardstick we use to measure our journey through a landscape that was there all along. All right, on to section 5, what this framework is not. And this is a really important point because to keep this conversation rigorous, we have to be very precise about what the model is not claiming. The framework draws a very clear, hard line between itself and another theory you might have heard of called MOND, or Modified Newtonian Dynamics. Now, on the surface, they might seem to have some similarities, but they are fundamentally different. This framework's core function is derived from a geometric principle, this idea of projecting from 4D down to 3D. MOND, on the other hand, is what's known as an ad hoc theory. That basically means it's a patch. It's a modification added on to make observations fit, but without a deeper geometric reason for why it works. Not to mention, this new framework aims to unite physics and biology, while MOND is really only trying to explain the rotation of galaxies. So let's wrap this up with the theory's foundational philosophical principle. Section 6, the unfathomable source. This is all about what the model itself says we can know, and maybe more importantly, what it says we can never know. The framework calls this critical boundary the epistemic cut, and honestly, the best analogy for it is Plato's allegory of the cave. We're the prisoners inside the cave. We can only see the 3D shadows, the projections on the wall in front of us. We can study those shadows with incredible precision, but we can never, ever turn around and see the 4D reality that's casting them. The theory is very firm that this isn't just a temporary problem that better technology might solve one day. It's a fundamental, principled limit to our knowledge. And the source text itself is absolutely clear on this point. This whole model is built on a foundation of what you might call intellectual humility. It says that if your theory is going to propose a source that can't be observed, then that theory has to respect that boundary. This isn't presented as a weakness of the model. In fact, it's presented as one of its core, rigorous strengths. And so this whole explainer leaves us with a final and pretty profound question to think about. If the world we experience, all of its staggering biological complexity and all of its simple physical laws, is really just a projection from some deeper, unknowable source, what does that actually mean for the nature of reality itself?